Hello, everyone. Welcome to another one of our Research Talk qualitative conversations. We're excited today to be talking about two members of our consulting team who are co-teaching a course this summer. That's Dr. Alison Hamilton and Dr. Kevin Swartout. And their course they're teaching at the Summer Intensive is Navigating Complex Decisions Across Your Qualitative Research Trajectory. So not project specific. We'll probably dabble a little bit over the course of the day when you teach inside and outside of project, but really focusing on that across your trajectory as a qualitative inquiry specialist. So that course is offered August 1st. As FYI, for folks who are watching the video, at the very end of the conversation, we'll post a slide that gives you information about how to learn more about the course and also how to register. So you'll see that. I'm Maietta, president of ResearchTalk, and not only do I have Alison Hamilton and Kevin Swartout with me, but I have Paul Mihas and Jeff Petruzzelli here. We will all share the conversation. And first, Paul's just going to give a little bit more about his background. So if you don't mind introducing yourself, Paul, that'd be great.
Hi, I'm Paul Mihas. I'm a qualitative researcher and consultant at the Odum Institute at UNC Chapel Hill, and I'm also a consultant with ResearchTalk.
Thanks so much, Paul. And Jeff?
Thanks, Ray. I am Jeff Petruzzelli. I'm a qualitative research specialist at ResearchTalk.
Great. And then Alison, if you want to let folks know more about you, that'd be wonderful.
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Alison Hamilton. I've been with ResearchTalk for a very long time, a couple decades. I'm an anthropologist by training and a professor in psychiatry at UCLA and a research career scientist in the VA, and mostly do health services research and implementation research.
Great. Thanks, Alison. Kevin?
Thanks, Ray. My name is Kevin Swartout. Let's see. I've been a consultant with ResearchTalk for about 18 years now. And I'm also a research professor at Georgia State University in Atlanta, Georgia, where I'm based. And my area is mainly violence prevention and promoting, more civil communities.
All right, great. Thanks so much, Kevin. So the two of you have worked together in lots of different ways and backgrounds over the course of your time knowing each other. And Kevin's 18 years with ResearchTalk and extended there. You've co-taught before. This is a unique course for either of you individually, and especially kind of the first time you're teaching this together. And I'm just kind of curious a little bit about kind of how it's coming together. Both of you have such involved careers individually as researchers doing just fabulous work, but both of you also witness and work within so many different ways, people at all sorts of different stages of their career. So if you just want to talk about kind of, the ways the course is coming together and how it fits with what you've been doing and learning in the course of your careers.
Sure. I mean, I think we've seen, in our own areas and then together, having taught a lot together and thought a lot together, that decision making in qualitative projects it's an ongoing process. And it's something that people often struggle with, including even how to get started thinking about what my research question is. And, we tend to have across all of our courses a pragmatic feel. How can we get work done? And sometimes what we've seen is when people are thinking through their questions, whether it be at the beginning or even at other points during the project, it's how do we get things done and ask questions that actually can, be addressed and think about issues of feasibility, goals, etc. So we just see so frequently that shaping of the decisions and the factors that go into the decisions can be a point of struggle. And I'm really excited about this class because I feel like it gives us a chance to dig into that. Where are the struggle points, so to speak? What kinds of things can we do to strategize and be more kind of in touch with what we're trying to achieve and how to achieve that, given the parameters that we may have, in our respective funding environments, et cetera. So it's something that I feel like we've touched on throughout many different courses, but now the chance to really focus and dig in is going to be great. And I couldn't be more happy to do it with Kevin. So Kevin, what do you think?
Thanks, Allison. Yeah, I completely agree with it, with everything you said, obviously. And yeah, once you've been around the block and you have a couple projects under your belt, you really start to understand all of the decisions and, both within projects, like you're saying, and also between projects. Do you want to continue and just do the kind of the next step in a research progression? Is there a pivot needed? And, obviously, your own skill sets as a scholar that you've built up, the methodologies that you feel comfortable with, that you've learned about in your training or in courses like what ResearchTalk offers, obviously play a role in that. And as you kind of evolve, I've always tried to, build up in my career. And I know everyone in this discussion, I feel like has done similar things. You just try to learn new things, learn more up-to-date methods, and then it's so fun to be able to kind of deploy them, if you will, in your research, both kind of, midstream in an ongoing project, and then as you kind of think through the projects that are on the horizon.
Kevin, the focusing on the between projects is so important, and I don't know how often people think about that strategically. So I was just wondering if each of you has advice on whether it's mindset, whether it's kind of actual practical stuff you might do. So
Yeah.
when you think about project to project, but across the life, yeah, what advice would you give for folks who are really in the same kind of zone with their topics, or maybe not, but just between project advice for folks?
Yeah. Thank you for that question, Ray. And it's so easy, no matter where you are as a qualitative scholar, if you've gone the academic route, it's hard. You really want projects to overlap, and you're just like Allison said, you just want to get the work done and on to the next project. And there's a lot of structures built in to the research enterprise that absolutely facilitate that. So and they it's easy to not have that higher level view because, like Allison said, you're so busy getting the work done and writing the next grant or writing the next, paper or book or whatever it might be. But I think it is, we really have to defend time. And some of the best time that I've spent in my career has been when I've sometimes forced myself to take a step back and think about, like, what am I doing? What am I trying to achieve? Not just, today or this week or this month or this semester or this year, but in across all of my research, like what impact could I potentially make, across all of this work? And I know, like Allison said, we've had these conversations about, you're building, and ResearchTalk has had some courses on, your qualitative career. And so this isn't necessarily new. We're focusing in on those decisions that you can do when you take a step back. Like, what decisions can you make? What can that thought process look like? Again, not necessarily to get you through the day-to-day, but to maybe help you get outside the box of, kind of what you've been doing, what your field has been doing in terms of the questions that they've been asking, the methodologies that they've been using, and can maybe take you in some really interesting directions that you wouldn't have gone in if you would have just, kept your nose to the grindstone consistently.
Do you have an example, if you don't mind, to direct it personally, of a type of decision that you might have made at those in-between project phases?
Yeah, honestly, sometimes it's to, and I know this, I completed my PhD a while ago. I'm not going to put a year on it, but but sometimes it's to go and build more skills. Sometimes it's to go and take another course, like what ResearchTalk offers, or a lot of times you can audit a course if you're affiliated with a university or institution, and learn some different methodologies, or learn some different ways of asking questions or analyzing data, or even visualizing your findings in a more accessible way. Or maybe it's a course that's completely outside of your area, like in communications or something. Obviously, like Alison being sort of an expert in implementation science with a big translational science piece to it. just being an excellent communicator. So just kind of pushing yourself to continue to build your skills. And when I've taken a step back, sometimes it's like, gosh, I really want to learn like a new way to approach, the same types of research questions that I've looked at over the past several years. So I'll sign up for a workshop, kind of sit in on a course, and that's sort of the decision. And then, I'll have, maybe it might be a different perspective. It might be a different skill that I can bring to bear and hopefully like move my field forward.
Yeah, Alison, on this between project piece, what comes to your mind?
One thing that I often work on with my mentees is, kind of thinking about what you want to be known for and how that might affect the decisions that you make along your trajectory or pathway between projects, across and among projects. And so we'll have that conversation, when you think, oh, I'm early in my career, and one day I want someone to say, oh, this person is a point person or an expert, or this is the go-to person. And I can even think about that in relation to Kevin, because his work in violence prevention has been so strong. And when we were getting involved in some work in the VA on prevention of harassment, I mean, Kevin was the person who came to mind, because that's what he's known for. That's the work that he's done. And I knew that he would have the skills, the perspective, the knowledge to bear on that in a really unique way. And that's because of the portfolio that he's built in that area. And so we were able to collaborate on that. And so even giving people examples, and I think that's one thing we want to bring to this course is, we've each built our career. So there is sort of that career dimension to it. And thinking about how projects populate that career. And I think we want to draw on our own experiences and of course, hear and work with our attendees on where they are in terms of thinking about who they want to be, what do they want to be known for, that sort of far end of the goal setting process. And then how can we kind of forge our paths to get there? It doesn't mean it's linear by any means, and it doesn't mean that there aren't things that come up along the way that may veer away from those goals in some way, but somehow they might all come back to converge upon, even with those new skill sets that Kevin was mentioning, come back to converge on this sort of professional identity and body of work that you ultimately, strive to develop. And so it is a lot of strategy, and not everything necessarily has its super distinct role in that process at first. You might not exactly know why you're off doing something else and you're like, wait, why am I doing this now? Sometimes that's what happens when you have a career built on research funding and so forth. But it's about constructing and making those decisions about how you're constructing the relevance of these pieces and how does the work tie together. And that's another thing that we really want to work on in the course is kind of situating your work within that broader conversation, within that broader dialogue and field of work, and seeing where you can make your unique contribution and what that might look like and what makes it unique and being able to articulate that. I think so much of this process of decision making is really kind of getting to that point of being able to articulate, why am I making these decisions? How do they serve me? Where are they going to take me? So that's another piece of this that I think is going to be really, really interesting in the course. I'm very excited about that.
Fabulous. And Jeff or Paul, we have so much that we've kind of brought out. I don't know if either of you has something on the table. It doesn't have to be in flow, but yeah, I want to invite either one of you, whoever wants to go first, into the conversation.
I'm reminded of Joseph Campbell's quote, the writer Joseph Campbell, where he says, the cave you fear to enter holds the treasure you seek. And I'm wondering how this course might help researchers who are kind of resisting certain directions, how it might help them better understand what might seem like a risk, but then they're kind of maybe also seeing the reason to go in that direction and to maybe to enter the cave.
That's a wonderful quote. It brings up the issue of vulnerability for me, that, we are vulnerable when we're putting our work out there, no matter what career stage you're at. It's a vulnerable process of deciding which risks to take, how to take them, and with whom to take them. And I feel like that is part of this strategizing that we've been talking about in terms of figuring out, do I really want to fully just go all the way into the cave? Do I want to dip a toe in the cave and see how it feels? Do I need someone to hold my hand while I go in the cave? And we all need that at different times, but understanding what it is, what that looks like for you, and then figuring out kind of where that fits in terms of your goals and your skill sets. I think, maybe you look at it and you say, I'm not ready because I still need to learn these few other things. So let me take a look at what I need to learn, and then I might feel better equipped to go in. I might have more tools in my backpack as I enter that cave, to continue the metaphor. So I think that that's a big part of what we want to achieve in the course is, figuring out what strengths you already have. That's really important to articulate. And then what might you want to fill in? And even if it's not filling it in the next year or two, but at some point you realize, oh, I actually really need an additional skill set to be able to pursue this topic or this opportunity that may feel a bit risky, but with a little bit more, by my side or in my toolkit, I can go there. And then the rewards are potentially quite great.
I love that. It's both of you are really kind of putting up front what I don't know that people would hear is it should be routine for you to do this type of reflection, to keep this awareness of what's happening now, what's happening in the future. It should just be a part of what you necessarily do as you're really defining and living your career trajectory. So, yeah, Jeff, tell us what you've been thinking about.
Yeah, one of the things I see in the description, which obviously is a big part of a researcher's work, is really just understanding and establishing how the work you're doing fits in with what's been done before by other scholars in your field, in your discipline. So I was just kind of wondering, how does that process really change over time as you're, as Kevin said, as you get more projects under your belt? Does that kind of process change at all? Is it kind of, you kind of follow the same path as you go along? How does that look as you move ahead in your career?
There's a lot of different ways to kind of approach that question. I'll offer kind of some thoughts. I'd love to hear Alison's answer as well. One thing that I've learned and I kind of have passed along, hopefully, to this next generation is, although it seems really exciting to try to do things that are completely innovative research-wise, just like kind of pave, a new path. And sometimes that can work, obviously, but there is a balance between standing on the shoulders of the literature and the researchers that have come before and other scholars in the field, but at the same time moving, the needle in terms of what your contribution is, and so doing work that is making a significant contribution and just not just kind of just rehashing what's already been established in your field. So really, I think some of our discussions in this course are going to be talking about how to strike that balance, because it's not easy. And we can, Alice and I can share some examples for how we've done it, both in terms of our methodologies, in terms of our data collection strategies, our data analysis strategies, but also in terms of how we formulate our research questions to try to hit that note of, again, moving the field forward, but not feeling like you're kind of untethered, just out on an island by yourself with nothing to really ground your work on. Because again, although that might seem great at the beginning, as you're kind of working through a project that is just completely, new, like it can be a little disconcerting to not have a literature to rely on, to not have, people that have done similar things in the past.
Back to the cave analogy, if we continue that, if you're spelunking, there are points where being tethered definitely helps. So,
yes,
Alison, that's an important part of what happens for folks in this field. Yeah, Alison, go ahead.
Yeah, I think we have access to a mind-boggling amount of information. I have sort of my tried and true ways of learning what I need to learn to be able to write a background or introduction section, that type of thing. And that's one of my most favorite things to do, is kind of dig into the literature, see what's out there, see what people are writing about, and I see that a lot by virtue of being a journal associate editor too. I think, even something I've learned from Kevin is to kind of expand where we get data from, how we use data, uh, thinking perhaps with a bit more of a mindset toward what do I want the impact of this work to be. So, like, for example, one thing that I've started looking at a lot more recently in my work is policy. That's not something I would have ever thought I would get into, maybe even, necessarily find as interesting as other sources of information that I would normally go to. Um, but I think there's a lot to be gained from thinking a bit outside the box. And it also happens to help with proposals and other types of products that we work on, where there might be a point of innovation that's not so much no one's ever done it before, but no one's ever brought this perspective that's a little unexpected into the work. So we were doing a project where we ended up drawing on some theories in business, which I have zero background in, but it was really relevant to what we were doing in terms of thinking about patients as consumers of healthcare. So even that, like, kind of broadening of where are we looking for these influences, these sources of information, how are we putting them together in ways that perhaps have not been brought together before? I think that's something that we can work on and plan to work on quite a bit in the course, and just helping people to think how to not only have that very solid grounding in the field and in what we often call in research talk the space you're driving into, but also what more space do we have, where are there some opportunities to insert some new sources of information, some unexpected sources of information, and how might we go about doing that to inform our work.
It's fabulous. Very mindful too. One of the things that we are always interested in as a team after people take these courses is, we have the line given to us by Kevin on Monday when you get back home after you've taken the course. Give you a couple of days off depending on the day of the week you take this class. But yours is a Friday, right? August 1st. So what would be a comfortable vision that each of you has as someone's thoughtful takeaway when they reflect on, all right, I spent this day with Alison and Kevin, and now I will blah, blah, blah differently, or whatever comes to your mind. If you picture one of the folks who register, how would you like to see any one of these people thinking back on what they'll take with them and integrate into their careers doing qualitative work?
Well, what comes to mind for me first is this idea that folks would feel a little bit more comfortable with the idea of mapping out a plan, and not a plan that is set in stone, a plan that will necessarily and importantly evolve and shift, maybe even in really significant and important ways. But it's even that process of saying, well, here's my plan today, and then being able to reflect back on that in a year or 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, whatever it is very important for us to understand ourselves, understand, what impacts we want our work to have, when we can look at, that's what I was thinking, look what I've learned since then. And I love the idea that we would hopefully equip people with some skills, some ways of thinking, some approaches and strategies for thinking through that planning, thinking through that decision making, and also feeling more comfortable with the idea that we just can't know everything we need to know right now, and that we have to learn as we make these choices in order to continue making good choices moving forward. So, and I think even to learn from both of us and through our examples that the path is circuitous, and that even though it doesn't entirely always make sense, that there is a logic and a flow to it that can really be capitalized on for impactful work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How about you, Kev?
Yeah, I think that's, Alison took the words out of my mouth, and I'll just add, at a more general level, I hope people will be excited by that. I hope people would be excited about having that plan, having that mission, and, just that if they haven't really, kind of taken that time to think through what they, the impact that they want to achieve across projects and how that they're going to make those decisions. I hope, obviously we want them to do that within the context of the course and then in the days following, and hopefully they'll be really excited about what they can accomplish. Because again, it's like Alison said, it's easy to just get kind of stuck in the to-do list and be very pragmatic about it. And we have to. That's how work gets done. You can't always kind of stay at the 30,000-foot view. But it is good, to have those opportunities to think about that and kind of check in with your plan, like Alison said. And I hope that's an exciting experience for people.
Thanks so much for closing us out on the note about excitement, Kevin. I think always it's good for us to have a passion and maintain and look for that excitement. But given kind of where things are flowing in our world, it's nice that we can find our niche and maintain that power and excitement. And the two of you, I can't think of a better pair of folks to help people think both about the critical content and making sure that you're true to that, carving out your path of discovery, but at the same time, not losing touch with, we do this for a reason that's important to us. So thank you for those notes from both of you. So yeah, in addition to thanking Alison and Kevin, I want to, of course, thank Jeff and Paul. We will follow the closing here with a slide, again, with more information about the course and how to register. And hopefully on August 1st, as many of you as possible will join Alison and Kevin. So thank you all.
Thank you.
Thanks.